Future Market has thousands of board games at discounted prices. Click the direct link below to see all of those discounted games. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. It's the end of the year, and I've been putting out a ton of videos about my top X games of the year, all different categories and such. If you've missed those, you can go back and check those out. But today, we are taking a look at my top 10 games of 2023, so here we go.
Number 10.
My number one is a game called Blob Party, and it's my number one because it's worked great with gamers and non-gamers. I've taken it to some neighborhood events, and I've taken it to game nights, and everyone has loved it. This one, it's interesting because there'll be one player gets to select one of three cards, and there's a category, and then there's an item, and you're trying to give a one-word clue that brings these things together. But the twist is you win if all players, by the end of the 7th round, are all as one blob. Because everyone gets this cool little piece of clay with a little cute little googly eye. And you're basically trying to match other people. Now when you match other people, you put your blobs together and you're now one team. And what you're trying to do, so now after the first round, like 3 of you might be on one team, 2 of you might be on one team, and there might be 2 or 3 others that are solo on their own. They didn't match anybody. And so now the people that are on teams on the next round, they're all collectively coming up with one answer together because they are like one blob, right? And so as you're getting closer to the end, you have less and less people to match, but it makes it harder because you have to match them. And you're trying to make it so everybody gets on one blob by the end. This game has had a lot of stand-up moments. It's had a lot of funny moments where just one person can't get on the page of other people. It's got explosive moments when you finally get there, everyone jumps up and cheers. It's just got a lot of special moments. It's super easy. It plays huge, wide range of player counts. It is better with more though. This is one of those party games. The more players, the better for sure. Not quite as good in the lower 4 or 5-ish player counts. Better with the higher range of player counts. But if you're looking for a nice little cooperative party game that's fun, gives you interesting things, and get to know you type of game, Blob Party is my party game of the year.
Number 9.
Now Sky Team, this is interesting because it's a 2-player cooperative game, and one's the pilot, one's the co-pilot, and you're trying to land the plane together. There's some limited communication where you're talking about what you need to do that round, you're rolling some dice behind your shield, and then you're placing them one at a time. I'll place a die, you'll place a die. I'll place a die, you'll place a die. You're trying to clear the airplanes from the airwaves, trying to clear out the path for yourself. You're trying to make sure that your plane is even, not too overkill. You're trying to control your speed. You're trying to use your flaps. You're trying to get the brakes set up for when the landing gear comes down. It's multiple rounds, and you have certain things you have to do each round, but there's other things that you're trying to time out at the right time to do it. The basic game that you play in the rules is very easy. You'll probably win it even your first time, but there's a book of 20 plus scenarios with all these different little mini modules with different components, different rules. They really ratchet up the complexity, the difficulty, and makes it so as you get better, it gets harder. And I like that, but I like cooperative games. I like 2-player games. This one's very unique where you can even play the other side and it's slightly different because there's some spots that only the co-pilot can go to or only the pilot can go to. And you're trying to feel your opponent out. You're trying to give them information without talking by putting a die down and be like, this is all I got for this, or I'm leaving this up to you type of thing. A lot of unspoken communication, but you do get to communicate at the beginning of the game. So this game I really love because, again, the limited communication works really well, and it's easy to get into, but they really ratchet up the coolness and the difficulty of it as it goes on as you play through all the different scenarios. So one of the games you're always going to get better if you play with the same player, and that's a lot of fun. That is Sky Team.
Number 8.
This next one is called Goblin Vaults. This is from Thunderworks Games. It's in that same sort of role player lock-up universe. And this is a very interesting card game. It is kind of like a mix of trick-taking and tableau building, where you're playing cards and you're sort of trying to bid for cards so that you can take specific cards, put them in your tableau, and score in certain ways, and the ways you score change every game. You're going to have ways of putting things in runs, maybe having the highest of a certain suit here, maybe go in ascending or descending values, and you're making this sort of tableau of cards, but where you place them is going to depend on how much you score depending on this specific game. Again, that changes every game. There's always different goal cards. So it's interesting because you're playing cards to a trick to try to bid for a certain card. Sometimes you want to win that card. Sometimes you purposely underbid or you purposely lose so that you can take the card that you played into your tableau. So it's an interesting sort of bidding mechanism that kind of is almost like trick taking. It's hard to explain. Go watch my full review of this. I think I also did an official rule school of this game as well. If you like card games, if you like trick taking games, if you like sort of bidding games, if you like tableau building, if you like multiple ways to score, if you like games that change how you score every time, this game is way more thinky than it looks. It's a small box game that takes about 45 minutes and really is crunchy. If you're looking for that small sort of card game footprint that expands to a bigger tableau, that has lots of thinking, more than you think it would from a light card game like this, check out Goblin Vaults.
Number 7.
This next one is sort of a deck building game, but it's an odd one because it's a very puzzly game. It's called After Us. This is from Pandasaurus Games here in North America. Now here what you do is, the planet's been vacated and all these different apes are taking over the batteries and all the different resources, and they're doing things with them. But this is a very abstractish game where you're taking cards, a tableau of 4 cards, and you're trying to puzzle these cards together to complete different chains. These chains are going to give you different resources, and these resources are going to be used to get a better deck or score points. And so you're building these cards together, gaining resources, and then you're going to be buying better cards. Now these cards you can't see because it doesn't make any sense if you were to see them anyways, because they're just puzzles. Right? You're building the deck of better cards that are going to get you more resources and more points. The game has a great arc. It's a race to, I think, 60 points. And it's so interesting because each of the different types of cards you buy do different things. One of them allows you to use, it gets a lot of batteries, which allows you to trigger powerful abilities that change each game. Some of them are going to allow you to get points. Some of them allow you to copy other things, right? And so there's a very interesting thing. This is very much a multiplayer solitaire game, but there is some interaction where you can piggyback on other players' end of round action, which is interesting. But the puzzle of this game was so amazing that this game is this high on this list, that it's just so fun. I played it a ton of times. I never get sick of it. After Us.
Number 6.
This game, I got it at Origins. It's called Splito, S-P-L-I-T-O, from 25th Century Games. I love this game because I've always liked the games like Between Two Cities, Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig, where you're building something with the player to your right and the player to your left, and the combination of those two in some way, shape, or form is your final points. And this game uses that sort of aspect, but the way it's facilitated is just a simple family weight drafting game, where you got a hand of cards and you're drafting them, and they might just be numbers and colors, but there's also scorecards in there. So you have to decide whether I'm taking a number and a color card, and then I'm deciding which partner am I putting this to. Am I adding it to the tableau and building with my player to my left or the player to my right? But sometimes you're getting scorecards like have the most greens or don't have any odd values in this pile. And so it's interesting because you're building how you score each game as you draft the cards, but not just you, your partner is doing it too. And so you get to this certain groupthink. There's certain things that you can communicate and can't communicate with each other. There's somewhat limited communication there while you're drafting cards. You're trying to put a scorecard and then pass the cards to the player to your left that's going to basically be able to piggyback on the scorecard that you just gave them because you just set them up and you're hoping that they get that from you without you telling them, things like that. It's fantastic. Again, if you like those types of games where you're scoring semi-cooperatively with the players next to you, and whoever has the most combined points wins, it's great. There's also some cards in the middle that could give you some majorities for extra points. And again, the reason why it's so cool, it plays high player counts. It actually plays all the way down to 3. There is a 2-player variant that actually also plays very well. That might actually be the most thinky game of all of them. So 2 to, I think, 8 players, plays high and low player counts great, easy to teach, lots of fun, lots of replayability. It's the reason why it's my number 1 card game of the year, Splito.
Number 5.
This next one by far is the heaviest game on this list. It's probably my favorite heavy game of all time. It's called Nucleum. This is from Board and Dice. This is sort of a cross between Brass, if you were to kind of play it in reverse, and Barrage. If you like those 2 heavy games, you're going to like this. There's a lot of network building, where you're building your networks up. You're trying to build into certain cities. You're trying to build those networks of rails so that you can gain coal and power different power plants. But then you're trying to get plants to create nucleum. Then you're able to take that power, the energy that you're getting from cities that you've built in your network, and you're able to power them with nucleum, which is more powerful. And the more powerful the plant, the more the city, the more points you're going to get. But there is a ton of things in this game. It is a huge brawling game with double-sided tiles where you get to select these tiles and do 2 different actions. Or you can put that tile on the board and build your network with it. And now you don't have that tile anymore. You're trying to get contracts, which are going to help you with endgame points, but they're also going to give you some resources and stuff when you get them. There is so much going on in this game. It is super heavy, 3-hour game, but it is amazing. It is just so engaging. The interactions with the player, the flexibility, unlike in Brass, where you can kind of build anywhere you want, and now that's part of your network. This game is the way that the end scoring works. You also have asymmetric technologies that you're unlocking. The game is just unbelievable. It's so good. The only reason why it's not number 1 is because it's such a large game. Between the setup and the teardown and how long the game takes, it's probably going to be one of those games I pull out once or twice a year. I'm going to love every minute of it, but because it's so big, it's not really one that I pull out as often, which is the only reason why it's not on number 1. I expect this to be on many people's number 1 strategy game, Nucleum.
Number 4.
Now this next one is sort of a cheat because it was an expansion, but it's a standalone expansion, which means you can play it on its own. And this is called Mindbug Beyond Evolution. Now this is, again, an expansion to the original game, which is called Mindbug First Contact. But again, you can buy this on its own and play it, so it can qualify for a Game of the Year. Now Mindbug itself is very interesting. It's co-designed by Richard Garfield, who has done Magic the Gathering, King of Tokyo, and a million other highly ranked games. But they took what I think is the most streamlined way you could give sort of a Magic the Gathering experience in a dueling card game, where you're playing cards, like on your turn, typically you are playing a card or you're attacking with that card. It doesn't cost anything to play cards. Cards have certain numbers on them, and that's it. The big twist in this game is the mind bugs, where you have a few of these at the beginning of the game, and when a player plays a card, you can play a mind bug, and you take that card from them, and you play it in front of you as if you played it. And it just changes everything, because you can't just play all your powerful combos right at the beginning, because they're going to mind bug those cards and take them away from you. So what you're trying to do is play cards that appear strong, have them mind bug them, and then when they run out of mind bugs, you hit them with the things that they can't, that are even stronger or that they can't combat. But again, all these cards are interesting because they all seem overpowered, but they all have cards that make them powerless, which is interesting. And so this game, the Beyond Evolution version of this, adds a lot. First of all, it adds types of characters or cards where it's a level 1. And you do something, and that goes away and becomes a level 2, a more powerful version. You do something else, that then becomes a level 3 version, super powerful version of this thing, which is really cool. Another aspect is, again, the base game is like you play a card or you attack with it, that's it. This game adds another thing where some cards have just actions on them, where you can say, oh, I'm not going to attack with this character, I'm not going to play a new one, I'm going to do this action which allows me to do something else, which is kind of cool. So they've added a few more mechanisms in the game to give it even more depth than it had before, so you can play this on its own, but it's also great to buy this, put it with the original Mind Bug, mix all the cards together. Fantastic card game, and I don't usually like those style of games, but this game is just so fantastic. Mind Bug Beyond Evolution.
Number 3.
All right, here we have Revive. Now this had a small release last Essen, but it didn't come out to North America till first quarter of this year. Revive is a very interesting sort of medium weight, I think it's got like a 3.5 weight on Board Game Geek, Euro game, with multi-use cards that are so satisfying. You've got these cards that have a top and a bottom. You're going to slot them into your board, and depending on which side you slot is going to be the resources you get. But you're going to be able to upgrade those slots. So if you put a card of a certain color in there, you're going to be able to get more than what you normally are able to get. And once you have all these resources, you're doing all sorts of things. You're exploring different spots on the map. You are creating little you're putting people out there to explore. You're moving them around and exploring. You are placing buildings down there and getting things from there. You're trying to get to the edges of the board, which will allow you to get some huge end game goals. The game has so much going on. You have your own board, and you're moving up different tracks of sort of technologies, and you're moving up, and as you get through certain things, you're also unlocking other special abilities. You can customize which abilities those are as well throughout the game, so that your person's always different. You have factions where you have special abilities other players don't. So you're moving up different tracks. All of those tracks are interconnected with each other as well. But the card play of this game is so engaging. You've got board stuff that you're interacting with players. There's just a lot of everything. Player interaction, multi-use cards, faction abilities. This game just has everything. There's a lot going on in this game, but it is still very smooth and very streamlined. Again, 2-player game, you can play this less than an hour. 3 or 4, it's, between 60 and 90 minutes, but it's still, oh man. This game is just amazing, and a new expansion just came out for it. I still haven't yet played it, but I'm going to do it soon. Revive.
Number 2.
This next one is called The Key, Escape from Strongwall Prison. Now, this is part of a series of games called The Key, and there's a whole slew of them. This is from Haba, and The Key are deduction games. Now, these are typically very light, family-weight deduction games. If you look at Haba and you look at the artwork of these, they look very light. There's 3 levels that they come up with these games. There's easy, medium, and expert. This is the only expert level of this game. Now, mechanism-wise, if you look at Board Game Geek, I think it's a weight of 2.0. Like, mechanism-wise, this is a light game. You are taking a card from the middle, you're looking at it secretly, and you're writing down clues on a thing behind your shield. Everyone's doing this. There's no turns, and it's not a race, but it's sort of real-time-ish. But it's not about getting there fast, it's about getting it most efficiently. And these deduction games use a style of deduction that you don't see in a lot of games. If you remember a game called Awkward Guests, deduction fans, many of them love this game. I did not. I liked the deduction aspect. I hated the ways you got clues, which was this silly trading cards thing, getting the same card 3 or 4 times. This, in my opinion, is way better than Awkward Guests is. And this expert version, and the reason why this is kind of cool to put here is because if you like deduction at all, but you don't want like make your brain bleed deduction level, you can get The Key whatever. You can get the light one. There's 2 easy ones, 3 medium ones, and this one none. Right? You can go with an easier version, but the system is the same, and this system is designed by Thomas Singh, who's the one that designed the Crew cooperative card game that was so fast. So he's a well-known designer. This version is expert because not only are you trying to find the thief, the person, the suspect, you're trying to find which laundry cart they escaped in, and you're trying to find their hideout, but they're all in a cell, and they're next to gang leaders and other gang members. And you're trying to find out who's their gang leader and which gang they're affiliated with. Because over the course of the game, you're getting clues that you're hearing testimony from people that are in prison, but you don't know if they're lying or not until later on you find out if that player is part of their affiliation or was it somebody else? Were they lying because they're from the other gang? Oh my gosh, it's so cool. But it raises the level where some of the information you're getting, you don't even know if you can use it yet. You don't know if it's the opposite. You don't know if it's true until you start to unlock other things. And so it's really a mind-numbing, brain-burnery, crunchy deduction game. I love it. It's so amazing. But again, if you're not huge on deduction, but you might want to test this thing out, play with your kids, try one of the easier ones. Similar system, just a lot easier. But this system is awesome. The Key, Escape from Strongwall Prison.
Number 1.
All right, number 1, game of the year for me is Ticket to Ride Legacy. This game, I've got to preface this by saying Ticket to Ride is one of my favorite games. I love it. I own almost every expansion. I think the game's fantastic. I often am playing games with people that have no idea of this hobby, and this is the number 1 game I always tell people to play is Ticket to Ride. Huge fan of Ticket to Ride. Ticket to Ride Legacy, Alan Moon brings in the 2 big dogs, the 2 champions of Legacy, right? Matt Leacock and Rob Davio, who did all the Pandemic Legacies, and Rob's done a ton of these. I interviewed Rob about how he designed this with them. The previous video, you can go back through my other videos, subscribe and check that out. It was interesting inside knowledge of some of the stuff he shared. The reason why this game of the year for me is twofold. Number 1, they did such a great job with this. They made it so that the first 3 games are very short. They're almost like the mini Ticket to Ride games, like Ticket to Ride New York, Ticket to Ride San Francisco. They're literally like 15-minute games. And so people that have not played Ticket to Ride before can get into it easy. And if you're just getting into the campaign, it's easy. The game's only 12 games long. But as you start getting into it after that, you're starting to add different pieces of the puzzle to the map, and you're opening up new levels, layers of the map, and you're bringing out new mechanisms. And I don't want to spoil anything, but there's one of the things that is the 2 things that really makes this stand out is the game's amazing, but B, one of the great things is some of these other Legacy games, when you finish them, they say you can play it. Now you can play the game when it's done. Not really. You can play it, but would you want to? This one you'd want to, because they have a really good way of which rules you actually use and which ones you are not using, depending on, because of the campaign. And they make it so that you actually have a custom board that you can really play with people that know Ticket to Ride. And it's fantastic. He actually uses some, I'm going to spoil anything. It's awesome. But the other thing is, you can play through this campaign multiple times and not see the same thing twice a lot of the time. I'm not going to tell you exactly how, but there's different ways that you're going to be getting abilities and ways to score and things like that. And you're only going to see probably 20% of what's there as an individual person, because a lot of this is hidden, each time you play through the campaign. So you can play through this more than once. There's actually a way, there's one thing that you will know the answer to for you, if you will, but there's actually 3 different answers. So you can actually play through this campaign 3 full times, and you still really don't have an advantage on other players. I think that's amazing. And at the end, you can still play it. Plus all the other legacy amazing stuff. That's why it's Game of the Year. It's amazing. If you like Ticket to Ride at all, no-brainer. If you haven't liked Ticket to Ride, I say give it a shot, because it turns Ticket to Ride into a pretty medium weight game with a decent amount of things going on to keep track of. Lots of different strategies and stuff. Ticket to Ride Legacy, my Game of the Year. Well, I hope you enjoyed seeing all these games in the top 10 of the year. If you want to learn more about these, I've reviewed pretty much all of these games. You can check them out on my channel. If you want to see all the other best games of the year of different categories, I've just recently released those as well. If you haven't yet already, you can subscribe to the channel and not miss all my upcoming reviews. This has been a Game Boy Geek, breaking down barriers, growing relationships with board games, helping you on the next one you love. Game Toppers not only transforms your existing table into a high-quality gaming solution, but they now offer full leg kits and dining cover solutions for the full table application. Paired with over 20 styles of thematic game mats in 11 different sizes from notable board game artists like Vincent Dutray, collapsible cup holders, and real cool accessories, experience what thousands of other gamers enjoy by upgrading every game you play with a Game Topper system. Save hundreds of dollars on Game Topper package deals that are in stock now for immediate shipping at GameToppersLLC.com or click the link below.